Hey guys, this is episode 5 of the intermediate knife build tutorial series. This is going to be a really fast-paced, super enjoyable episode. You're going to get to see the Hamon lines pop out on this as we finish it out. We're going to go ahead and set the guard, put the handle material on. It's all going to happen really fast in this video. It's going to move along real quick. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. So this is looking pretty done. I've got it set out to 500 grit right now, and I think that's good enough. We're going to go ahead and take it right from here, right from wet sanding, throw it into the ferric chloride and distilled water, and we're going to go ahead and do a real quick etch. We're going to do my normal process where I dunk the blade for 10 or 15 seconds, pull it out, and wipe it down with 4/0 steel wool. I'm going to do that several times to see the pattern pop out. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition the camera to over there and get you set up so you can watch it. Alright, here we go. So we got the blade sanded. We're going to get ready to dip it in here. No Hamon on there yet. Just a watermark there. No Hamon. Let's go ahead and dip it in and see what happens. This is finished to 500 grit. We're going to do some, maybe like a 30-second soak, pull it out, hit it with 4/0 steel wool. That is not at all what I was going for. You can see right here it's shiny, and then this is nice and matte. The whole blade got hardened all the way up to here. This is all hardened. Same on this side. This is shiny and the entire blade is matte. So, I mean, this is the Hamon line right here, where the difference between the hardened and non-hardened steels are. So basically, yeah, I clayed all of this, but when I heated it and I quenched it, the quench ran right up through the steel into the clay and quenched higher all the way up into here, and it quenched and quenched, and so I had a lot of clay right here, and it was able to insulate the steel right here really well, which is actually perfect if you think about it, because since your guard's here, this is not brittle right here, so this would pass a bend test for sure 100%. In fact, it only hardened from here all the way up. You could see the hardening line right up there, that Hamon line. So this is still left soft, the tang is. This is going to make a perfect knife. It's just, I kind of was looking for some extra, cool artifacts left on the blade, and that's why I did all these little dips with the clay and stuff like that. I am going to do it again, and we'll get it right. Maybe use some W2 steel instead of this 1084. It quenches a little bit different, and obviously W2 shows a Hamon a little better. In the intermediate build, I wanted to stick with a 1084 steel because it is a easier steel to quench. Anyhow, this is what we're left with. You roll with the punches, right? So we're just gonna go ahead and leave the blade just like that, and let's do it. Okay guys, here we are. This is where I left off last night. I went ahead and showed you guys this Hamon line. I'll tell you what, I gave it a night and I came back out today and I just don't like it. I don't like it. So I'm going to throw it back on the sled and we're going to sand it completely out again and we're going to try it again. Now, since I did sand this out all the way to 500 grit, I'm going to start with 500 to get this cleaned back up. Check this out, guys. Look at right here, the light coming down off the blade, and when I move it you can see I've never seen anything like this finishing out a blade before. And this is kind of cool because this happened by accident. You know, I tried to get the Hamon on this blade, so we deep etched it and it never really came out. So then I decided to go ahead and sand it out. And what happened is when I sanded this all the way to 700 grit, it's almost like there's billions of diamonds on this blade that catch and refract light. It's beautiful. I mean, it's truly like the blade is encrusted with a billion diamonds. When you hold it in the light and you look at it, as I move it back and forth, you could see the light transition right here, and you could see it, the light catch off of each one of those tiny little grains. They're not facets, they're not pores, it's actually like grains of the steel that hardened, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now we're going to take our design here, lay it out, and we will go ahead and mark how much material we need. Now remember, when I laid this out, I added extra material on the top. So we need to make sure that we put enough material on the bottom to get the full finger guard out of it. So if that's going to lay like that, then we'll go ahead and cut this off right here. So it's a little bit long. We can always trim it back. But one thing you can't do is add material. So we'll go ahead and cut it off right there. So guys, at this point in the build, you have to have your knife blade 100% finished. Before you put this guard on, the knife blade has to be finished. Don't plan on doing any touch-ups to this knife blade after you install the guard. Have it finished, and then we're going to wrap it up in tape, and we're not going to undress it until this knife is ready. So go ahead and finish this out. Same goes for this top portion of the guard. You can never touch this up once it's installed onto the knife blade. So we're going to get this finished out. We've got to get all this dicom off of here and get this cleaned up. We're going to take this over to the buffer and buff all this out and get it nice and clean. We're going to install these two things, and then we're going to go ahead and put the handle material on. And when it comes to handle material selection, I've got a couple of pointers that are going to help you out tremendously on a build like this, especially if you're going to put this block of material on without shaping it before you put it on. If you're planning on just putting this on and doing all the shaping work after you've got it glued up, then my pointers for handle material are going to make a big difference. So let's go ahead and get you to that point. Let's go ahead and clean that out with a little brush. Alright guys, so when you get your knife blade right where you want it, and it's done, it's finished, we're going to go ahead and seal it. So I go back to my trusty old Ren wax, and I'm just going to put a nice layer of Ren wax on the blade portion, making sure that I don't come back here on the tang. You know, just go right up here on the flat, but not to the tang. We don't want it to go on the tang. But this is the last time we're going to see the blade until the knife's finished and we go to untape it. So this is just to make sure that we don't introduce any rust through the rest of this process. So that's good there. We'll let that Ren wax set up for just a minute, and then we're going to go ahead and tape it up, and then we'll drive on the guard. Now, let's talk about handle materials. I think this is pretty important to discuss also. You can use anything that you want to, but what we're going to do here is we're going to drive this on, and then we're going to select a piece of handle material, and we're going to hollow out the core and put it on and pin it. That's the generalization of what we're going to do. We're going to shape this after it's all glued up. If you choose a softer handle material, say spalted maple or redwood or, oh, who knows, there's a ton of softer handle materials. And if that's what you choose and you glue this up, when you go to shape the guard, you're going to be sanding metal and wood at the same time. And the softer material woods will sand away really fast. And if you're not careful, what could happen is you could get a divot where the wood is lower than your guard. It's actually really easy to do. My suggestion would be, if you've never done this before, choose a hard, dense wood. You will have a better rate of success. I guarantee it. Ironwood, African blackwood, ebony, rosewood, Honduran rosewood, Brazilian rosewood. There are a ton of hard, dense woods that sand much harder than, say, like a spalted maple. What that's going to do, you drive this on, you put your hardwood on there, and then when you're grinding your guard material into your handle material, it's much easier to grind the two mediums next to each other without causing any variations between the two surface levels. If you don't have a disc sander, this is very important. If you have a disc sander, then it's very easy to get the mating surface between this and your handle material to be perfectly smooth. Even with the disc sander, if you heat that wood material up, the wood expands and you'll grind it absolutely perfect. And then what happens is when that wood settles back down and cools off, it will shrink slightly, and then you'll still have just the tiniest of ledge between the metal and the wood. So when I move into shaping the handle, I've got a lot of tips when it comes to that, because I've done quite a few of these. I love hidden tang knives. To me, they're really the sexiest knife that you can build. So this is set up. Let's go ahead and get the tape on it. I like to tape these up pretty heavily. Here we go. I left a little bit of room right here so that when we put the guard on and the handle material with our epoxy, if there's any squeeze out, I'll be able to clean it off of the blade. So I left just a little bit of fiddle room right there so I can get a Q-tip in there and clean off the epoxy if any squeezes through. Alright, so let's go ahead. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to drive this guard on for final fit. Make sure that your guard is oriented in the right direction. So this is our cutting edge, and that's where the finger guard's going to be. put our material to that is a nice fit. Nice fit. One thing I'm also checking in here is that this is sitting at 90 degrees to the tang. Now, since the tang is tapered, when you put this on here, it's not going to actually look 90 degrees to the tang because it is tapered. You could, before I taped up the blade, you could have laid this on the front, but on this knife, since I did a tall flat grind, I've got a distal taper on the blade side also, so you can't actually measure it on the blade side either because of the long distal taper. If you went off the taper with this, you know, it's not going to be 90. This is going to be off by a few degrees. So really just get that on there and you're going to eyeball it straight and get it as perfectly 90 degrees to the tang as you can. So here's where we are. We have our knife template. This was our original design that we were going for. Here's our blade with our guard installed. And it's a hammered texture that we went with here. It's a neat look, but this kind of gives it a different feel than a lot of knives. So that's what we got. Because I went with the hammered texture, I have chosen a piece of wood that has a pretty nasty knot in it. I think that could be really cool for the handle. And I'm going to incorporate that. A lot of people would be like, nah, you don't want to put that in your handle. Well, that's not me. I want it. I think it'll look awesome. So here we are. There's going to be our handle right there, which is going to be cool. We did lay the guard slightly forward, so that changed a little bit from our design. And the other thing that's going to change here is this handle won't quite fit. I mean, we're just a couple millimeters off from this tip down here. So we're going to change the handle shape just slightly also, and we're going to kind of not have such a dramatic curve here and just kind of straighten it out, and it's going to be awesome. Let's go ahead and get this measured out here. Put that on there. Now this actually has the guard material on it, so when I cut this down here, this is going to be long, and that's good because I like it to be long. We'll figure that part out later, so let's just go cut that off on the bandsaw. Right there, that's going to give us our block of wood that we're going to make our handle out of. Save this for a rainy day. Alright, so what we're going to do here is just lay this on here. Make sure that your handle material is above the spine of your knife, because you want the handle to flow right through the spine into your handle material. So we want a little bit of material above, just a tiny bit, not too much. We're just going to mark around the tang. This will give us a reference as to where to drill our hole. There we go. Now we'll come up here, we'll mark a halfway line, and then I'll take this line and extend it over the top, and I'll take this line and extend it over the top, and that'll tell us how large of a pocket that we're going to be drilling out. Here's our line right here. So now, I'm going to come up here. You can see we're going to go ahead and drill from here to here, and we'll drill out a pocket right here. So now we've got to select a drill bit that's slightly larger than the tang. We'll go ahead and drill this out. Let's go ahead and do that next. Okay, I'm going to show you how I line up my handle material to get it drilled. I've got it in my drill press here. Actually, this is my milling machine, but same difference. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lower my quill as far as it'll go. I got to stop in my way here. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. Alright, that's as far down as I can go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this as far down as I can go. And then what I'll do is I will move my piece to where the drill bit lines up perfectly with the line of the tang. Right there. That's good. Okay, you can't see it from there. Let me show you. Alright, so you can see right there. See how I lined up the material, so when I drill down, the drill bit will follow that line right there. That's the outside of the tang, okay? Now you'll see my drill bit is only going to drill to here. But that's the longest drill bit that I have, so I'll be trimming just a little bit of the tang off. Yeah, I could go and buy another drill bit, but there's really no reason to. It doesn't make any difference. This is super hard handle material. So I've got this axis nailed in, so I'll move the table over to center the drill bit on my center line, and I'll go ahead and drill the first hole. Moving the table over to put that drill bit right on the center line, which is right there. We're going to lock it in place, turn it on. So now I'm going to move that back, bring the drill press all the way down, loosen this up again, move the handle material to where the drill bit matches the other side of the tang perfectly. Right there. Lock it in place, raise it up, bring the table over, lock it down, turn it on. Now I've got a hole on this side of the tang and a hole on that side of the tang. So I'm just going to move my table over just slightly. I could do this on drill press. And I'm going to drill another hole. So now I've got several holes drilled. Let me show you what we're looking at. Okay, so here's what we got. We've got several holes drilled right in a line. Now I'm going to connect these holes. Our holes are connected. It's not perfect, but hey, it's going to be filled with epoxy. This is an intermediate build, guys. This doesn't have to be crazy, extreme perfect. We're not working precision numbers here. Guys, here we are. Nice, fits up nice. It's good, it's awesome. Here's what we're going to do next. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this out. We're going to lay it so that fits in there. You can see it line up with our lines here. All we have to do is pull it out and lay it on those lines. And we're going to mark a spot right there. That's going to be for our pin hole. Right there. So we're going to go and drill a pin. We need to choose a pin. I'm going to use a brass pin that's the same so that it matches this guard. We drilled this hole large, so I'm gonna pull a pin out smaller than this hole. We're gonna go ahead and pull a pin out, select a drill bit, and drill that, and then we'll get this thing glued together. And wait till you see how I glue it together. Alright, so we've chosen a drill bit. It's gonna be the same size as our pin stock. Right there. We're going to check that drill bit first. So just a scrap piece of wood, make sure everything's square. Let's raise this up. There we go. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just pop a hole through and then make sure that my pin stock fits my hole nice and snug. Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Here's our handle material. Come down, find the hole. I just kind of touch off, make sure that I'm in the right spot. And I am. Try not to push too hard so I don't blow through the other side and spall out the wood on the other side too much. And I didn't. See that? No spalling. That's perfect. And that should be a good fit. Oh yeah, super tight. That's excellent. That's what I'm looking for. With any glue up, you want all your pieces to be as clean as possible. That's just all there is to it. So we clean the tang off with acetone. We clean our pin stock off with acetone. And our mating surface of the wood, we're going to clean that off with acetone. And this also strips any oils that might be on the wood, depending on what kind of wood you're using. And it'll help the epoxy stick to the wood. So we'll clean that off, let those dry, move around and get this thing glued up. Watch how simple this is. When we go to glue this up, what I'm going to do is take a piece of leather. I'm going to lock my blade into this vise. Okay? There's a couple things that you want to make sure. You want to make sure, one, that the tip of your blade doesn't come out past the end of the vise. That's pretty crucial. Okay? So the tip of your knife can't come out past the end of the vise jaws. The second thing that's important is that you give yourself a little room right here to get in here to clean out that area where you might get some squeeze out, okay? So get your blade locked in here. Alright, so we're locked. We're going to just dry fit everything, so this will slide on here. Our pin will slide through here. Ooh, that's tight. That's why you dry fit. There you go, right there. Looks better from that side. It's okay if there's a little wiggle in here. Alright, so that goes on there. And this clamps it all together. It's that simple. So I do a dry fit. Make sure, okay, that pin's free so we're not putting pressure on it. Make sure everything lines up. Making sure I'm not going to have any gaps in here. Want to make sure everything's looking perfect. Lined up the way that it should. Everything's good. We're awesome. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my epoxy. I'll fill the handle with epoxy. I'll put some epoxy in the little void that I had in this guard. I'll fit it all together. Epoxy's going to squeeze out these holes, so I'm going to put a little drip tray here for squeeze out. And I'm going to coat my pin with epoxy, install the pin, clamp it all together, and let it set. And it's going to be perfect. There we go. We are resumed. This epoxy works, it's real liquidy and runny out here right now because it's like 90 degrees out here in the shop. Definitely mix your epoxy. The most common mistake with epoxy is just not mixing it enough. So take the extra time. I know it's only got a 5-minute set, but mix it. So I'm just going to fill this. I like to drizzle it in. I found that if you drizzle it in, it actually it lets air escape and it fills the entire pocket all the way to the bottom. You're going to start seeing it squeeze out that pinhole here in just a second. Starting to thicken up here. we go, I think we're there. Pretty much full. Okay. Of course, all this will be filled in no matter what, but might as well just take the extra time, stick it around. Here we go. Roll your pen in epoxy. Just might as well get that epoxy all over everything. There we go. And we're gonna go in for the final fit. Okay, so there's that. It's gonna squeeze a lot out, which we expected. Make sure everything's turned exactly the way you want it. And give it a clamp. Good. Awesome. 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 You can scrape off some of this excess epoxy. That way you don't have to grind it off later. Either way, doesn't really matter. Okay, that's good there. And we did have just a little tiny bit of squeeze out on this side that I'm going to clean up. So I just use a paper towel and some acetone here. Pretty simple deal. Just like we did in the stock removal tutorial, just a piece of paper towel, a little tiny bit of acetone, then you can get in there and wipe it out. You definitely want to make sure you get it all out right now though, while it's still wet. There we go. Come around to this side. This side's good. Wipe it off just to be sure. That's it, guys. It's glued. It is there. Just doing final inspection. Everything's perfect. We got the angle right. It's right this direction. The pin's in, it's fully sealed, there's no gaps. Everything's good. Well, that's it. We got this thing all glued up. In the next video, we're gonna sand that out. I'm gonna show you how to do all the layout lines to get that thing nice and crispy clean. I'm gonna show you how to shape the guard in the next video, how to shape the handle. Some really neat tips on how to put layout lines on that after it's all glued up. If any of you were interested, I'm using this JB Weld 2-part epoxy. It's a 5-minute epoxy. I actually really like the 5-minute epoxies. I use the 30-minute epoxies too. But this 5-minute gives me plenty of pot time to get everything that I need done, and it holds like crazy. So this stuff works really well. You can pick this up at Home Depot or Lowe's, or I'll put a link below for my Amazon. That's certainly, every time you guys buy something like this from my Amazon, it kicks me like, 30 cents or 40 cents or something. But hey, every single little thing helps. That's for sure. I really appreciate you guys following along on these builds, and I look forward to finishing this thing out with you. See you on the next video, guys.